All right, we're going to get started. Welcome everyone to the Santa Monica Neighborhood Association City Council Candidate Forum. As you can tell by my jacket, I am the moderator. My name is Bruce Letty. And I just want to thank all the candidates for being here this evening. I know you guys have extremely busy schedules, and we really appreciate your taking the time to be here and explain your candidacy and what your priorities are for the city. I also want to thank everybody who's watching for taking the time to inform yourselves. Three of these people are going to be on the city council and are going to have a big influence on the future of this city. So it's really important to know what they stand for and what they're going to be pushing for once they get there. I would like to give a special shout out to a few people who are very instrumental in making this evening happen. Trisha Crane, Elizabeth Vandenberg, Alyssa Feinerman, and Zena Josephs. They did the yeoman's work of culling all the questions and getting this all put together so that we could have a lively discussion. The 6 city recognized groups who have sponsored this event are the Friends of Sunset Park, the North of Montana Association, Northeast Neighbors, the Pico Neighborhood Association, Santa Monica Mid-City Neighbors, and the Wilmot, Montana Neighborhood Coalition. If you're not a member of your neighborhood association, I really recommend you check them out. It's a great thing to be part of. It's not a huge commitment. You meet once a month. You get to know what's going on in the city. They have great speakers, and it also helps you to have a better voice in what's going on in the city. When the neighborhood associations write or show up at City Hall, the city council sometimes listens to them, sometimes. I know all these guys are going to listen when they get elected, right? So if you're not a member, consider joining. It's a good thing to do. Joining me this evening, Jeff Brecht is helping on the technical side, and he's going to have a little timer in his window that'll help the candidates to keep their answers brief. With this many candidates, unfortunately, we have to keep everything pretty much to 1-minute answers. Which I know is really hard, and I apologize in advance because I'm going to be interrupting people 1,000 times tonight. But that's just the way we have to run it to keep it moving and to try to keep the whole thing to, a 2-hour maximum if we can. If you really get out of control, Jeff does have the mute hammer and he will bring it down. So beware. For the audience, there is a chat function down at the bottom of your screen. You're welcome to ask questions of the candidates, and they can choose to answer or not, or to engage. It's kind of a test of their multitasking ability. That'll be running throughout the evening. We do ask that you just keep it civil. This is a public forum, and keep your comments just to Santa Monica issues and your questions just for the candidates. Sometimes these things run off the rails, and we want to avoid that if we can. It's also, if there's a lot of commenting, it's very hard for the candidates to find the questions. So it'll be a lot more successful if you just put up questions and then they can see them. I think that's pretty much my whole spiel. I have randomly generated all of the names for each question or each segment we have tonight. And we're going to start with, oh, there's Samantha. Hello. We're going to start with opening statements. And so you have a minute to introduce yourself to the residents. And of course, if this isn't enough, if you are interested in someone, they all have websites and you can learn a lot more about their policies and their hopes for the city. But this is just a way for them to introduce themselves. So the opening statements will start with Lana, Whitney. Oh, Whitney's not here. Lana, Albin, Jesse, and Carolyn, and then we'll take it from there. So Lana, you're up first. Take it away.
Not fair. Thank you. My name is Lana Negretti. I was appointed on City Council last year, and I'm running for the first time to be elected to a 4-year seat. I am born and raised in Santa Monica, have lived in a rent control apartment my entire life. From the time I was a kid, and I live in one now in Sunset Park. Grew up in the Ocean Park area. I'm a small business owner of a family business that my dad started 50 years ago, the Santa Monica Music Center. Elected board member to the National Association of Music Merchants. an advocate for public school education as it pertains to music and arts education. And I am a mother. Two of my stepdaughters have gone through our beautiful public schools and two are in them now. So I am an active resident, just like everybody here tonight, and looking forward to hearing from everyone this evening.
Beautiful. Packed it in. 10 seconds to spare. All right. We are going to move on to Albin. It's all yours.
Maybe I'll take Lana's extra 10 seconds. Hi there. My name is Albin Gillich. I am an 18-year resident of Santa Monica. And for the entire time I've lived in a rent control apartment, not the same one, but definitely have benefited from the rent control system we have here. For the past 15 years, I've been solidly involved in this community. I'm currently on the Recreation and Parks Commission, and I just turned off the Santa Monica Travel and Tourism Board, where I was the chair for the past 2 years, unfortunately during the pandemic. I'm currently on the Montana Avenue Merchants Association as a resident board member. And in the past, I have been actually the chair of the North of Montana Association about 10 years ago. And other boards like Sustainable Works and Buy Local and whatnot. I am here today to see some familiar faces and meet some new people. And just want to say I'm excited to be running for city council and to be one of the 11 candidates that you all get to choose from.
Great, thank you. Also under the wire. Next up, we have Jesse. Take it away.
Hi there. My name is Jesse Zwick. I'm a journalist, a screenwriter, and a public policy advisor. I got into local politics because of our homelessness crisis. I was working at the time writing in television, but I couldn't ignore the tragedy that was happening on our streets every day. So I started volunteering every weekend in homeless services, building relationships with unhoused neighbors and connecting them to housing and services. That work achieved a lot, but I also got really frustrated because I felt like we didn't have a good partner when it came to city and regional government in solving this crisis. And that led me directly into politics because that's the arena in which good policies get made. I'm the only candidate with direct experience working in homeless services. I know what works and what doesn't, and I'm committed to improving our system here in Santa Monica. I'm a father to a 6-month-old, and I'm fighting for housing he can afford in a climate that's livable. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. We're going to have Carolyn next, and then it'll be Samantha, Armin, and Natalia. So Carolyn, it's all yours.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Carolyn Tarosis. I'm currently serving in my second elected term on the Santa Monica Rent Control Board. And in my day life, I serve as Supervisor Holly Mitchell, Senior Deputy on Economic Development and Workforce Development. And I'm running because I fundamentally believe that government's role is to stand in the gap for folks who need our help, for folks who need a voice, and for our residents to make sure that our city works as it's supposed to, transparently and accountably. And as someone who is an attorney with extensive experience in local government, navigating multiple complex bureaucracies and taking this no wrong door approach to serving our residents, I believe that I am best suited to lead us into an economic recovery that's equitable, that works for everyone, to clean up our streets in a way that's compassionate, and to solve our unhoused crisis that we're experiencing here in our city. I want to work with all of our stakeholders. I have experience and direct results of working across multiple different stakeholders and factions to achieve results that actually work. In the last 2 years, I've been at the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic, delivering critical financial assistance to our businesses and workers, and I want to be your champion on City Council. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Samantha, it's all yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Samantha Mota. I was born and raised in Santa Monica in the Pico neighborhood on 17th Street. I'm a community gardener, a committed community activist, and the youngest candidate running for city council. I'm no stranger to serving this community. I actually got my start with Climate Action Santa Monica, empowering youth to take the reins against the fight against climate change. And it was actually sitting in former city manager Rick Cole's office that I knew I wanted to run for city council, and that was about the age of like maybe 18 or 19. And then now at the age of 24, I just had the confidence and courage to go after the change I hope to seek to bring. In 2021, I was humbled to receive the Premio de Orgullo Award for Hispanic Heritage Month by the Santa Monica Hispanic Heritage Month Committee with the support of City Council for my advocacy to expand community access and gardening opportunities to combat food insecurity while fostering a new era of self-sustainable urban living. Gentrification, displacement, homelessness, and climate change are on the rise, and communities in Santa Monica are struggling. Together, we
That's
can.
your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, great. Thanks, Samantha. All right, we have Armin next, and then it'll be Natalia, Jonathan, Troy. Armin? Mute.
Hi, everyone. Hi, all the neighborhood groups that are here. Wonderful to see everyone. My name is Armin Melkonians. I've been involved a lot with the neighborhood groups over the past. I'm the founder of Residocracy. I'm really running to bring back a quality of life to Santa Monica and a resident focus back to our dais. Balance, I think, is what is needed in Santa Monica, and it's been missing for a long time. We need residents as the main stakeholders. Development has been an issue in the past that I've stood up and fought for residents, successfully reversed the Hines project through a referendum. We did Measure LV through Residocracy, and currently crime is the real big issue that I see in Santa Monica. I've been personally affected by it. I think that everybody in Santa Monica has either been affected by it or they know someone who's been affected by it. I'm proud to be endorsed by the police department, by the fire department, and by many of my neighbors across Santa Monica. I look forward to serving you and hope I get your vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Armin. And Natalia, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalia Zernitska, and I'm running for Santa Monica City Council because when the mayor pro tem decided not to run for re-election, she and community stakeholders asked me to run in her stead. So I did what I've always done. I stepped up to serve my community. I am uniquely qualified to serve as a city council member because of my lived experience as a refugee from the former Soviet Union, my 12 years of Santa Monica community involvement experience, as well as my professional experience as a financial analyst. Like many people, my top 3 issues are homelessness, public safety, and economic recovery. And I have real experience addressing these issues. There's no one solution to the homelessness crisis, so we need to address it in multiple ways. And as someone whose family had to flee our home because our government didn't keep us safe, public safety is very important to me. No family should have to live in fear like mine did. And my professional experience as a financial analyst sets me up to be able to approach our economic recovery efforts with a fresh perspective.
Great. Thanks, Natalia. And Jonathan, then Troy, then Ellis. Jonathan?
I'm Jonathan Mann, and I'm a man for the people. I'm running because of corruption, conflict of interest, and incompetence in our city government. We're facing out of control crime and rent gouging. I've lived in Santa Monica since the 70s when Santa Monica's renters' rights actually did something about rent gouging. I blame the city council, the city employees, and Santa Monica renters' rights for the complete escalation of rent because of gentrification, because they opened the door wide to developers to come in and build these luxury apartments that no one can afford to live in unless they're making six-figure incomes. Now, I'm proud to say that I'm running without any endorsements, especially any of the city employees. I'm running because I'm the only one that's talking about district elections in this election. Nobody else is talking about it. In the last election, that was a big issue. I have a lot more to say, and I'll save for later.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. Troy?
My name is Troy Harris, and I'm running for city council because it's who I am. I could not sit by and watch more crime and more homelessness affect the city that I love so much. I have been working for UPS for the last 12 years, working directly with our customers to help improve them. And in a lot of ways, customers are companies and they're very much small communities. And I'm able to find ways to streamline their processes and find different wants within the different stakeholders and provide to their overall needs to help the company grow. And that's exactly the type of experience that you need to apply to city council. And that's exactly what I want to do. I love Santa Monica very much, and I've seen it in its heyday. And it makes me sick to my stomach to see all the buildings that are empty and they could be filled with restaurants and mom and pop shops that help make this place unique and thrive. And so that's what I want to do by bringing the best of Santa Monica out and bringing my positive attitude to make this a better place.
Great. Thank you, Troy. And lastly, last word goes to Ellis.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you very much to you and to everyone else who's organized this important event. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ellis Raskin. I am the vice chair of the Santa Monica Planning Commission, and I'm also an environmental attorney. Before serving on the Planning Commission, I served for 3 years on the city's Urban Forest Task Force. I first got involved in politics here in Santa Monica, fighting evictions in the Pico neighborhood, and I've continued to be an advocate for our community, which is seeing ever-increasing gentrification and displacement. I'm running because we need bold progressive leadership to address our city's challenges. I will make sure that our city implements evidence-based and health-based solutions for our homelessness crisis, making sure that people get the resources that they need. I will make sure that our city is prepared to address climate change and the effects of the future climate crisis. And I'll be a steadfast advocate for good governance, transparency, and integrity at City Hall. I have worked my professional life to save open space, to protect mountain lion habitat, to protect coastal access, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Excellent. Thank you all, and thank you for sticking to the time. I know it's hard to jam all of that into a minute, but we're grateful that we're going to keep it moving. And we'll move on to our first question. We're just going to have 3 questions that are answered by everyone. And then we're going to have a round where it's subgroups are going to answer, and then we have a round where it's individual candidates are asked questions. So we're going to try to keep it mix and match and keep it lively. This first one is for everyone, and the order of answering will be Samantha, Troy, Carolyn, Jesse, and then I'll fill you in on the rest. So the first question is, if you had been on city council for the last term, or in Lana's case, while you were there, what is an issue or two that you would have voted differently on? What did they get right and what did they get wrong? Samantha?
One thing I think I would have definitely voted differently on is investigating violations of the Brown Act. We need a lot more accountability and transparency, as well as credibility within City Council. And being a part of the community, like I'd definitely be a voice for the community. And then I think another policy or thing I'd vote differently on would possibly be a motion to pass down what happened with rent control that night. I know it was out of the best interest for the community. And I think to answer Kevin McCohen's question in response, because it's kind of hard to type and do both at the same time, I think in order to have a very thorough study session on rent control and examine what we can do better and expand on, I think is what tenants we should be providing for, and those who really need help. And going forward with that, I think it needs to be discussed a lot more thoroughly.
Great, thank you. Troy?
I'm actually very much in agreement with Samantha's answer in that I would have voted differently on violations of the Brown Act. And integrity is very important to me. It's one of the keystone elements of the company I work for. And over the last 12 years, it's been ingrained in me. Just be honest and let the chips fall where they may. I know that when you do the right thing, good things come back to you. And a lot of times we form relationships with the people that are involved in these matters. And it can be tough to stand up and do what's right. But we have a community to answer for, and the people deserve the full extent of our truth and our honesty. And an investigation doesn't necessarily mean that people will be found guilty of what they're accused of, but it just means that it will be investigated and answers will be found and there's transparency. And transparency is something that we deeply need in this community, and that's the way I would have voted differently.
Great. Thank you, Troy. Carolyn is next, then it'll be Jesse, Lana, and Armin. Carolyn?
Thanks. Yeah. So as someone who's the first person in my family to ever vote an election, who's gotten into government despite no one in my family having any experience doing this, I really take very seriously the vows that we have as civil servants to uphold our laws and to be as transparent and accessible as possible. That's why I'm running. That's why I've been involved in government, quite frankly, since volunteering on campaigns when I was 16 years old. And so I was very disappointed to see that there was a de facto violation of the law amongst our current city council when confidential information was leaked. And I was also very disappointed to see that the majority of our current city council did not vote to support an investigation into the violation of that law. I absolutely would have voted differently. I absolutely would have voted for an independent investigation. I think it's what we owe our public. It's what we owe the folks who elected us. It's why we do this job. And if the folks can't trust us, then who can? So I would have voted differently on the Brown Act investigation vote. And I believe that's my time. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Jesse?
I won't dwell on it too much because it's been mentioned, but I too would have voted for an independent investigation of the violation of the Brown Act. Voting down an independent investigation doesn't help residents' trust in government, which we know is at an all-time low. And I think we need to be doing everything we can to boost that at the local level. In addition, when it came to our COVID response, I wish the city had been able to act a little faster and been more flexible when it comes to allowing businesses to operate outdoors and in other untraditional ways. And I also wish we would have put forward the council would have put forward an actually realistic housing element the first time around, because as it stands, the city is now deemed out of compliance with the state housing element, and it's opening up us to a real loss of local control and developers being allowed to propose buildings as tall and dense as they want and us not being able to have a say over it. So those are some things I would have done different.
Great, thank you. Lana will be next, and then Armin, Jonathan, Ellis. Lana, as one who was there, what's your perspective?
Well, I've only been there for the last year, but in the one you said, the question was a vote that you would have done differently if you were on council.
Right. So you can look at the time before you were there if you'd like.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of about when I was there, I don't know in terms of a vote, but if we were to have more time to bring up the rent control issue, I really wish that was presented much earlier, just so that although I did involve stakeholders, what you see, unfortunately, what the community sees, for those who haven't had the experience of actually being on council yet, it's easy to presume, right, from the outside than how things are working behind the scenes. So I do wish that there was more community engagement so that the message wasn't misconstrued to be something that it wasn't, because it was intended to help residents at the bottom end. In terms of, I'm just sort of responding, the investigation, the city attorney could have done an investigation and still could, at that time could have. So to spend the money, I don't regret that decision, because at the time we were building our relationship with council.
Thank you. Armin? You're muted, and so was I.
One more time, I got to get used to this unmute button. So I'm going to get back to basics. I think, city council is really elected to run a city, and that's what we've neglected to do, and that's why we're in the stage we're at with crime and the quality of life in our city, from at least from my perspective and all the residents that I talk to. So I think the one issue that city council really screwed up on is the parking structure in downtown, to demolish it. I think that was a horrendous decision. It should not have been done. We should have kept our parking. Once it's there, you lose it, it'll never come back. That was a terrible decision. I think a good decision was a recent one, when the city council wrote a letter to, and it didn't have an impact yet, but the city council wrote a letter to the county to demand that, or to ask that needle exchange programs don't happen in Reed Park. I live within walking distance of Reed Park, and my wife and I refused to take our child to a park that he could use because needles may be on the floor. it's not up to us as residents to activate a park. It's really up to the city to activate a park. So I like that they did that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for addressing the other part of the question, since they don't get a lot of love at the council. Jonathan, you are up.
All right, you know, the Brown Act violations and all of these other things that have been going on are nothing new because, like I said before, we have a very incompetent, corrupt city council and the whole city office holders and staff. And it's because of conflict of interest. You can't be elected in this city unless you get the right endorsements. Right now, the big endorsement, gentrification is over. We lost that battle. So the big endorsement now is going to be from city employees. And everybody on the council, except for 2 people right now, are endorsed by city employees. Probably by the end of the election, it'll be even more. And that's where the corruption comes in, because you're not representing the people who live here. I've been saying this over and over and over for the last 15 elections. And it just does, the message doesn't get through because I don't have endorsements. People will make jokes about me running over and over again. Well, that's why I don't win.
That's your
because I
time.
don't get endorsements.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
We appreciate that you've 15 times is very impressive, but also would appreciate if you try to stick to the question that's asked for as we're moving forward. So Ellis, it's your soapbox.
Yeah, a lot of a lot of good candidates for this answer here. I do agree with the sentiment of others that I would have voted for a Brown Act investigation. There are a lot of things that you know are of personal interest to me that I would have liked to have seen get agendized, like restoring authority to the Landmarks Commission or getting a tree ordinance. But really, I think a crucial issue that I would have done differently has to do with how we allocate budgeting priorities for our homeless and unhoused community. I mean, right now we've really got a very limited set of professionals out there on the streets right now who are trained mental health professionals engaging with individuals who are experiencing homelessness. We've really got to make sure that our budget allocations are there to have the resources in place to be able to get health-based responses out to our unhoused community. And really it's just a matter of making sure that the resources are there. We've got to work with qualified recruiters to make sure that we have the social workers and trained staff that we need. And that's a key part of the budgeting process. So that's my answer.
Great. And then we have Natalia and Alban. And again, it's what did the city council get right or wrong in the previous few years?
So I hate to seem like I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but I would have also voted for an independent investigation. Something else I would have done a bit differently is I would have voted for certain different appointments. Since I only have a minute, I'm not going to be able to get into all of those. But kind of some more specific things. The pilot for public input that was just recently voted on to end earlier rather than to end in March, I would have voted to continue it through March so that we would have more data available to analyze how well it's working. I also would have probably spent a little bit more time or asked for a deeper study session on the vote to ban amplified music in Ocean View Park, because I understand that there are some difficulties with the enforcement of that new ordinance. So I would have loved a little bit more time to study it. I do think that there are definitely some things the council got right, but that's my time. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And Alban?
Hello. I guess the one thing that I would have done differently is I would have made sure that the appointments to the Public Safety Oversight Commission were of commissioners who are not biased for or against the police. I think the result is we see a slant against the police, which does not foster the type of morale and willingness to work together to achieve a better result and make sure that that the police have, that they don't feel supported, and I don't feel like that the commission is as effective as it could be. Another one, I agree with Armin about the needle exchange in Reed Park. When I first heard about that as a Recreation Parks Commissioner, I nearly blew a gasket. I'm very glad that council backed us up and has come out against that. The other related to parks, the commission's recommendation to clear up Chess Park to end the dangerous, criminal, and antisocial behavior that was a daily occurrence there has been very successful. So I'm glad that they took our recommendation and moved forward with it.
Great, thank you. And I'm confused because is it Albin or Alvin? Because on screen it says Alvin, but your signs say Albin.
Oh, it's Albin. With a
Yeah.
V.
But it
Not
says-
sure where the V got there. Is that for me?
Yeah,
Gosh.
I don't know I was a little confused by that, but okay.
Yeah,
You'll
I
sort
do.
that out.
I sure will.
All right, so thank you all for that. We'll go to our next all candidate question. And the order for answering will be Albin, Jonathan, Jesse, Ellis to start. Question is, many residents want greater transparency when it comes to city spending. What methods and metrics would you recommend so that residents can better understand where the money is going and what progress we're making toward the city's stated goals? Albin, you
I
are up.
think it's communication is everything. Once these decisions are made, they should be publicized. You know, if there's a financial decision made or something related to the budget changed or new allocation based on a new issue that's arisen, that should be in the newspaper, that should be on social media, that should be beamed out to all the neighborhood groups and other stakeholders in the community. It should be really easy to find that information. And if it's something, you know, big and of huge concern to the community, let's have some meetings about it. You know, pre-COVID, we had community meetings for everything. And I think that's how a lot of stuff got done. That's how these neighborhood groups were most effective. And we were, I feel like at that time we were more transparent, and that was probably a large part why. So it's really just sharing the information in the right places so that everyone feels like they're informed.
Great, Jonathan.
You know, every election, I hear this about transparency and accountability in government. And every politician from cities, counties, state, federal, they all talk about it, but none of them do anything about it. They have town halls. What we need, and what I've been talking about, is a 24/7 virtual town hall on the city website. It would be very easy to do. We've had it before with the public electronic network, but the plug was pulled because it was taking power away from the city council. And that's why it won't be implemented. The idea of transparency and accountability, online forums that are moderated for length and for staying on thread, is the only way that you can hold our council and other staff members in the city throughout accountable and transparent. And it's a very easy thing to implement. We are in the 21st century. Why haven't we done it? Santa Monica can be a leader in this. And I talk about it. I've talked to city council members.
That's your time. That's the time. Thanks, Jonathan. Jesse, you're up.
Budgets are currently available, but and accessible to the public, but they're often in the form of incredibly long, unwieldy, and very hard to decipher documents. So I think we need to very much look at how we can break these things down for the public in ways that they can both understand them and provide feedback as we go through our yearly budgeting process. I believe in a participatory budgeting process whereby we would have town halls where each department would have the opportunity to go through its budget before the public, and the public would have the opportunity to provide feedback on it. I also believe in clear measurable metrics for each program and department, which we could say determine whether or not we're achieving success with the money that we're spending, and regular updates as to how we're doing on our progress. And I think that we as a city can work always, as Jonathan mentioned, towards being more transparent and allowing the public to participate more fully in the participatory budgeting process.
Great. We have Ellis, then Lana, then Carolyn. Ellis?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important question, and I think with the budget process specifically, we do need to provide a lot more detail to the public about specific programs, what the numbers are, how things are being spent, and I think that this can be done by utilizing the technology that we already have, having a budget dashboard where everyone can look online. But there's some other common sense things that will make government a lot more accessible that I think we need to embrace as a city. I mean, first and foremost, our meetings are at 2, sometimes 4 in the morning. I mean, I was there on July 26th at 4 in the morning, and we need to think about how we can restructure our meetings in a way that is conducive to public participation, and especially in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, where a lot of people have accessibility issues where they can't get to meetings. And we need council members, honestly, that will be open and accessible and willing to meet with folks. I get so many emails as a planning commissioner where folks say, people never return my emails. For those of you who know me, I will be an open and accessible council member who will be happy to meet with you at any time.
Thanks, Alice. Lana?
Yes, I mean, I think it's been touched on, but obviously communication is key in giving it in digestible, small chunks so that people can understand it. It's a lot of information, and utilizing our already in existence platform, which is the website. First, we need to make sure that we staff that department properly so that we can have all of that information available and keep it updated so that it can be transparent, because that is key, as it is a changing document. And so as long as we have everything listed exactly where we want to see, that someone can click on it and it's easy to understand. And then there's an opportunity for people to submit, questions or partake in any community concerns. I think that will make everybody feel engaged. They'll be able to understand the information, and then they can come better prepared with the questions they want to ask.
Great. We have Carolyn, and then Natalia, Troy, Samantha. Carolyn?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. I've said this publicly in multiple different forums, but I am ready on day one to institute participatory budgeting. I think that's the only way that you give the community a say in the process. I'd like to see us allocate about 5 to 10% of our budget specifically to participatory budgeting. And that means that we give the process over to the community in its entirety with community listening sessions, stakeholder sessions, where we are deciding by community proxy where we put that money, and that directly speaks to the priorities of the community. Additionally, something we've done, we are working on this at the County of LA. We have a $39 billion annual budget. $1.9 billion we are putting all on an equity dashboard. So that's all of our American Rescue Plan money. I would do that for the county to say exactly where are we spending the money, who are we giving it to, and what are the outcomes? Who's been served, what's the impact to the community? If it's about homelessness, how many homeless people have we served? If it's about crime, if it's about cleanliness, etc. So depending on the impact we're looking for, absolutely having that on a publicly available dashboard as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Natalia, it's yours.
All right. So I don't know how many of y'all know this, but I was actually formerly one of 2 resident appointees to the audit subcommittee. It is a fantastic committee that receives the reports from our internal auditors and also tracks how those recommendations are being implemented to see where they are in the process. It's all on that website, but the website is very archaic and it is difficult to navigate. And as one of my colleagues mentioned, our city budgets are hundreds of pages long. The reason I was looking around earlier is because I was trying to find one of the copies of the comprehensive annual financial report, which is a really fun read, don't get me wrong, but it is very complex and nobody has the time to sit and go through that and understand what it is that we're spending money on. Our annual budget this year is $705 million. We need to use, everything that we have at our disposal. We can use infographics to make it easier for people to understand. We can share it on social media. As some folks have mentioned, I think a dashboard where people can kind of play around with that data is a great option as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalia. Troy?
We should have quarterly earnings calls, just like publicly traded companies. We're in the public sector. Why don't we do the same exact thing? There's beautiful reports out there with lots of color and lots of graphs, but what's missing is the delivery, because people will just simply not read the report. They will, however, watch a presentation on it. And that's exactly what we need to do. I have a background in media arts, so this is something that I would bring to the table specifically. And I also know that like the company I work for, we can present the data and look at goals and strive towards hitting the goal and just present whether we hit the goal or not. Internally within the city, we could take measures to make sure we're hitting those goals. and look at each department. I'll go sit with each and every one of them and learn what they want to do and what it's going to take and how we can hit the budget goals. And also, I want to hit a well-being metric. We have this grant that we received for the well-being metric. It's something that should be presented as well. Those are the metrics and methods that I would use.
Okay, great. And Samantha and then Armin. Samantha?
In order to ensure transparency within our budgeting process, I would definitely go with what Caroline stated, which is the participatory budgeting process. And it sounds a lot much like the community wellness program, which is like the community gets to decide through deliberation and decision making where funds are allocated. And then in response to also Daniel Mitchell, where do you stand on letting the public know what the city has spent on defending the district voting case? I think the community deserves to know how much money is being spent, especially after so many years, because a lot of this money could have been spent on programs that could have benefited the community and the city entirely as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks. And Armin?
Well, first, I'm shocked that we don't have a great understanding of where our money is being spent. You know, we have typically a $750 million annual budget, $1.5 billion biannual budget. We do a great job preparing the budget, but not in tracking where we're spending the money or tracking the results either. So that should all be up online. It's so simple to do. You know, we have the budget number, where are we going, what's being spent. The other biggest thing, I think, is tracking how much money we pay our consultants. That's a huge number, and that needs to be tracked just like they track the people who are speaking, who may be acting on behalf of someone, but also who's getting the money. You know, that needs to be tracked continuously. When the audit subcommittee just recently did, they asked Moss Adams to do a study on the homelessness issue and how much money is spent on the service providers. They couldn't even find answers. They didn't have an exact answers. They were kind of guesses. We should have that. If we ask that question, we should have it through a spreadsheet in a matter of 30 seconds.
Thanks, Armin. And I do want to just mention to all of you that at the end of the evening, you will have a closing statement time that you can go back and address something that was put to you, or if you want to correct what someone else said, or if you just want to make a final push for your candidacy, you will have that opportunity. And for those of you in the chat, which I see is very active, though I'm not really monitoring, if we can have less attacks on each other and more substantive questions for the candidates, that would be great. We do have a lot more questions to get to, so I'm hoping that we will cover most of the things that you're bringing up, but if not, write it in there again and hopefully you'll get a response. So we're going to go to our last all candidate question. And I think, you know, let's see if we can go a little closer to the 30-second mark. I don't think this one needs a great deal of explaining. If you do, that's okay, but I think we should try to power through this one. The answering will go in the order of Armin, Jesse, Natalia, and Lana. And the question is, some people think that city employees run the show as opposed to the city council or the city manager. Do you agree with this premise, or what needs to shift?
I think there's definitely an impression of that, and it probably happens just because council doesn't have the time that's necessary to kind of lead a city. You know, it's a part-time position. There's really no staff for council. I think they share at best 2 staff members. It's in city of Los Angeles, for example, a city councilman, it's a full-time position. They have they have a bunch of staff members. They have a head of staff. They have other staff members. They have planning associates. They have, you know, people from different departments. Santa Monica's budgets are large enough, I believe, to bring in staff for city council and even potentially make it into a full-time position. I think at that point, it will definitely appear that city council, you know, elected officials are the ones running the show. But right now, if you look at the amount of information that needs to be digested by a city council person at each meeting, it's probably a stack about this thick. It's going to go past the screen here, and they just can't do it in a timely fashion. So I don't know if it's necessarily staff running the council or it's just there's not enough time.
Okay, great. I don't know if I missed the clock or it didn't happen, but hopefully that was around the right time. So we have Jesse.
I'm gonna agree with Armin on this one. Council is titularly in charge of everything. They have the last word in the vote, but there's a huge time and knowledge deficit when it comes to the amount of issues that the city has to tackle. And when you're talking about 7 people with other jobs and taking this on in a part-time capacity with no paid staff, I think it's impossible to expect a council member to command knowledge and authority over all aspects of the city's workings, and they have to rely on staff quite a bit. I do think that supplying independent staff to council or potentially making council a full-time job would lead to council members able to better do their jobs to the best of their ability and actually command the power that they have been bestowed and make decisions accordingly.
Great. It will go Natalia, then Lana and Ellis.
So I definitely think that there are some changes that could be made to make it more apparent that city council really is in charge. The structure that we have is a city council, city manager form of government. So what the city council really are doing are setting the top priorities, and it's up to the city manager and all of the departments to implement that. I do agree with what has been said in terms of potentially kind of reconfiguring how council is set up, if it's a full-time job or if there is a full-time elected mayor or something else. But all of that would have to be done through a change to the city charter, which requires not only a very intense study of the issue, but also a vote of the people. So there would have to be a lot of discussions and deliberations if we were to change all of that. I think that we can be clearer about how we are setting our priorities with our city staff and with our city manager. And that's something that I will work very hard to do. Thank you.
Okay, great. Lana?
So I do think that discussion that Natalia just mentioned is definitely important and needs to happen, because as it has been mentioned, yes, this is a part-time job with even a less than part-time pay. So it makes it really hard to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion when people are paid such a small amount. It doesn't constitute taking away from your full-time job and your family. And then on top of it, the agenda packets are so lengthy and detailed and come with lots of attachments. It is really hard to manage. So another thing that needs to be looked at is agenda management. It might mean more meetings, making sure that we put the meatier items separately, which we try to do, so that it gives council an opportunity to really delve into that information. We have 1 staff member for 7 council members, but that staff member is tasked with doing other things. It's not a go-between necessarily between as far as getting information. So council does rely on staff, stakeholders, commissions, experts in the community in order to digest all the information and then make decisions on that on a bi-weekly basis.
Great. And Jeff, let's just stick with the 1-minute clock, but we'll just hope for people to wrap a little earlier than that. But it's hard to stick to 30 seconds. So that was my wish. So we are going to go Ellis, Carolyn, Jonathan. Ellis?
Yeah, the question was whether city staff are running the show here, and I think it's important to look at this in a little bit of a nuanced lens here. There are some really quite varied city departments that we'd have to throw into this conversation, and frankly, there are some really good subject matter experts on our staff who I think are properly given a lot of deference in the work they do. I'll give a shout out to Matthew Wells, for example, our chief urban forester, who I think is doing a fantastic job and deserves a lot of credit and deference. But really, what's been said before is that city council does run the show and sets the policy and sets the planning priorities for our city, and gives instructions to the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk to implement that. But as other people have said before, it's not something that city council should do without a fully participatory and engaged process with the public. And the public needs to have a meaningful opportunity to engage with their elected officials to make sure that policy reflects the will of the people.
Great. And Carolyn?
Yeah, so whether or not it's true, there's this perception that we have a very strong city manager form of government, and that's how our charter set us out. City council, however, are the elected folks. The buck stops with any of us who have the honor of being elected, and we have to take responsibility for what happens in the city. I think that the only way to mitigate the perception that city staff is kind of putting things forward to council to rubber stamp is making sure that we have strong council members who are asking the questions, who are doing the analysis, and who are engaging with stakeholders. And I can assure everyone here that I know our government system. I'll use it to work for our residents. The people of Santa Monica have trusted me for the last 2 terms on the rent control board, where we direct staff and a hearings office and a attorney. And quite frankly, I'm ready to lead on day one. If we want to take up this issue of whether or not there should be staff for city council members, I'm happy to do that after this election. I think that there's no harm in more transparency and oversight.
Great. Jonathan?
Well, the obvious reason that I keep repeating over and over again, nobody else, is that the reason the city council gives away its power is because they have to reward the people who elect them, and it's not the residents. It's the Santa Monica city employees. That's the most powerful endorsement, along with Santa Monica's renters' rights. And these people are not representing the residents. Now, the whole idea of a virtual town hall is to empower the residents. It would level the playing field. So people who aren't rich, like myself and a couple other people who are running, would have a level playing field so we could run without special interests and other endorsements. And that's what's going to change this city, but nobody is willing to support me on that. Thank you.
Great. Then we're going Albin, Troy, Samantha. Albin?
Okay, I think the main points have already been made, so I'll keep it short, but based on our charter and our form of government, yes, staff does kind of run the show. They, council determines policy, but the city manager and the staff below him are the ones who actually govern on a day-to-day basis. I would love to see an elected mayor and a change to the charter so that council members could be more engaged and consider this a full-time job rather than a volunteer position, because Santa Monica is too big, too diverse, there's too much going on, too big of a budget for this, for us to continue this way. Over the years as a commissioner on various commissions and boards, I've worked with city staff and learned a ton from them. So they are a wonderful resource for anybody who's in charge, because they really do know their stuff and they're into it. And sometimes they feel that they don't always have the support of council. So, you know, I think it kind of depends who you ask, and it's a double-edged sword once in a while. But I do feel that council and staff could, moving forward, could work together better.
Great. Troy?
Okay, the question I heard was who runs the show, city staff or the city manager? So I'm going to answer it as that. And ultimately, the city council hires a city manager, so my answer is the same. And the city manager had better run the show because in my eyes, he is the CEO of the company. And if any staff member acts as if they were ahead of the group, then the CEO has a full right to fire that person. It's not a question. It is just the way it is. You've chosen this job and you make good money doing it, and you are expected to serve in that purpose. We're all here to serve. I'm here to serve. And so if the city manager is not able to manage his employees or her employees, then the city council should hire a city manager who will. And that's exactly what I would do. And I believe in our city manager, David White. He's a great person. He's worked very hard on becoming the city manager of Santa Monica. And I believe in him in running the show.
Great. And Samantha, you get the last word.
Thank you. I think from the outside, it may look like staff run the show, especially when they do run day-to-day operations, as many other individuals have said. And they're what really kind of what makes the city work. So I think we owe our staff, our city staff, a lot more support than a lot of people are giving them, as well as our council members. And I've heard from several of their council members as well that there is only one staff for all of them, and it's not enough. So I think we do need more staff for each council member. And, you know, hopefully we can extend the hours for council members so we have more thought and thoroughness to get these policies going and ensure that the community voice is at the table. Thank you.
Okay, great. That ends our round of all people answering each question. We're going to now do some questions where we'll just have 3 and in some cases 2 of you answer. And again, if you didn't get to answer a question that you want to address, you have a form at the end that you can speak in. I just want to remind everyone who's watching in the chat, the less back and forth between yourselves, the better. If you really want the candidates to be able to find your questions, it's hard when you're just getting into arguments on the side here. So our first question is going to be for Ellis, Carolyn, and Lana. And the question is, homelessness was mentioned by all of you as a top priority. What are 3 specific policies you would fight for to address it? And where would the money come from? Ellis?
Yeah, it's an important question. I mean, 75% of folks who are experiencing homelessness here in Santa Monica, by most estimates, are experiencing some form of mental health issue or addiction, or some combination of the both. So we've got to make sure that our strategies are focused towards providing the resources we need. That involves making sure that we have shelter beds locally that are actually going to provide the services that will address this. San Michelle has been a disaster for a very long time, and we need to make sure that we have local beds available here. But we also need to address the underlying structural issues of homelessness, which is, it's a regional problem. It's a regional issue, and we need to work with partners, at the regional and statewide level to leverage resources that are there. Carolyn's been saying for a long time, why don't we take advantage of county pots of money that are just sitting there for us to be able to fund these resources. We've got to make sure that there are people out there on the streets who are trained mental health professionals making proactive work to reach out to folks experiencing homelessness.
Great. Carolyn?
Yeah, thanks. So the question was, what are we going to do, specifically 3 specific policies around homelessness? I think that this absolutely has to be the top issue, because our unhoused neighbors, family, friends, and neighbors are preventing folks from coming back to Santa Monica around economic recovery. It's leading to mental health outreach crises, and obviously potentially leading to this perceived increase in crime. I've said publicly that I want to increase the mental health and homeless dollars that we have in our city budget by 25%. That is not at the detriment of our other agencies. That's actually because there are pots of money, like I've said, and Ellis alluded to, including our homeless innovation dollars that are sitting at the county waiting for cities to apply to them. We need to leverage our position regionally. We need to work with our COG. We need to work with our partners. I would love to see the expansion of our community response unit that the fire department has proposed and put forward. We need more interdisciplinary teams. And at the end of the day, we need more mental health inpatient beds. Our closest beds are at Harbor UCLA. That is way too far to take folks who are having a crisis from Santa Monica to Torrance. And so we need to say yes to all of these solutions. Thanks.
Thank you. And Lana?
So being on the homeless ad hoc committee, the first thing that we did was create the map so that we could see, with the money that we're already spending, who it's going to and how that's impacting our community. So I think just reallocating some of the funds amongst existing providers, making sure that maybe some providers are receiving more funding than needed, but others are receiving less, but are being more impactful. I think also making sure that we have transitional housing, but more importantly, that we're working with our neighboring cities and we're allowing resources from outside the city lines to be made available, and not requiring that everybody that is getting services, that those service providers reside in Santa Monica. As it was mentioned before, working with our WestCog, I've attended many of those meetings and had already started those discussions and those relationships in pooling our funding from wealthier communities such as ours, to make sure that maybe we can contribute where we're too dense to have physical space, but we can work with our neighboring communities and offering services to each other. So collaborating, relationships, and in terms of budgeting, using what we're already spending now.
Great, thanks. This next question will go to Natalia, Jonathan, and Alban. And the question is, safety is a top 2 concern of residents in the current neighborhood group outreach. Which of the currently funded city programs do you think are most effective at reducing crime? And are there programs the city should adopt that could be more effective? And where would you get the funds to use them? Natalia?
So which programs are currently effective? I think there's actually quite a few. And we do have an excellent police department. They are very well trained. And honestly, we are way better off with our department than some of our neighbors. With that being said, there's a lot of different programs within that department, including the youth diversion program that I fully support, and I would love to expand further if we're able to find funding. Where I think we can find some of that funding is to figure out how we can kind of realign areas in our budget that aren't necessarily aligned with what our values are, and to really effectively target the different areas that are experiencing different types of crime. So we know that some neighborhoods, the types of crime that folks are experiencing, like break-ins, are different than other neighborhoods where it might be more kind of traffic related issues, like people blowing through stop signs. So we should address those two areas differently. Thank you.
Great. Jonathan, your take on crime programs? You're muted. There you go.
Crime in Santa Monica is directly related to homelessness. When I first moved in here to Santa Monica in the 70s, there wasn't that much crime. In fact, when there was crime, it was a big story. Now there's so much crime that they don't even cover it anymore. There was very little homelessness in, and everybody says it's a regional problem. Well, the reason that the homeless are attracted to Santa Monica is because we provide the services, and we're attracting the wrong kind of homeless. We're attracting the street thugs who come here on the crime trade. Now, the way I would deal with crime, being in law enforcement for 10 years as a parole agent and a probation officer, I would work with outside law enforcement, including the sheriff, because we're going to have a new sheriff. With Culver City, whenever there's a situation that happened like on May 31st in 2020, our police officers live too far away to come here and address it. Now, I have an answer to lure police officers to live in this city, but I don't have time now to tell you how I would do it.
You can tell us later, but thank you. Alban.
So so public safety is my #1 priority. I'm also endorsed by the Santa Monica Police Officers Association. I think what we're doing is working, but that we may not feel or see that because our police department is not fully up to staff. We are budgeted for 221 officers, and we have probably about 180 with new recruits coming on hopefully soon. In recent memory, I don't think any of us know what it feels like to have a full police department. So once we get there, we will know, and then we can reassess to see if 221 is the magic number or if it needs to be more. So, and if it does need to be more, I would be all for allocating the resources necessary for that. I agree, homelessness does contribute to the crime problem, although it is not solely responsible for it. And we need to continue with our street teams, but they need to be working 24 hours a day. That model works if they're more visible, if there are more of them, and if it's around the clock. Homelessness is not a 9-to-5 problem, so we cannot treat it as such.
Okay, great. This next question will be for Samantha and Troy to answer. And the question is, the success of most initiatives you may recommend depends on the city's financial strength. Please explain 1 or 2 things you want to implement that will have a positive impact on our fiscal stability and help to manage expenses. Samantha.
This is a great answer. Great. Thank you for this. Okay, I've been actually working with the community and advocating for several years to bring AB 551, the Urban Agriculture Tax Incentive Program, to Santa Monica. We got the support from Parks and Recs, and it went up the chain of command, and who knows where it kind of got lost there. And basically it aims to incentivize urban agriculture through vacant lots, but through a comprehensive set of goals and policies, the city can actually buy out these plots with various funds and grants through county, state, and federal grants that are out there. And we could actually give a lot of the land back into the hands of the community. And we can also create a vacant lot registry to tax those who are just not using their land, and hopefully be more proactive in this program. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. And Troy?
For financial strength and economic recovery, my approach is a commercial vacancy tax on commercial landlords. We need to bring our businesses back. We need to bring our retail back. Our constituents are sick and tired of seeing empty buildings everywhere, up and down Main Street and up and down the promenade. We've had enough. And now the commercial vacancy tax is going to bring building owners to the table. Let's talk. All options are on the table once we get to the table, but let's use good faith in bringing the businesses back. And how do we start this? We need to provide something of value. And that means mom and pop, unique stores and restaurants that bring people to Santa Monica to make them remember why they liked being here in the first place. Yes, there's a great ocean. Yes, there's a good community, but it could be a great community with great stores and individual unique things to offer if we provide something of value. And I've served for 5 years Santa Monica businesses as a UPS account manager, so I care.
Thanks, Troy. All right. Our last small group question goes to Armin and Jesse. The question is, the California Hospital Association and a Rand Corporation study both concluded that 50 psychiatric beds for inpatient care per 100,000 individuals is the absolute minimum required to meet current needs. Santa Monica's population is 92,000, but we have 0 psychiatric beds for our residents who need them. How would you solve this problem? Armin?
I think first of all, I think we spend a lot of money on the homeless issue with virtually no results. But here is somewhere where we do need to spend money because we don't have any. I think psychiatric beds are super critical. For the first time yesterday, I saw a homeless individual on the street that was having an OD. Personally, I saw with my eyes. It looked, he was going through convulsions, and there was other homeless people around him. What's happening on our streets is just not compassionate. We've been leaving it for way too long. But the psychiatric issues, and we've all seen them, is a separate issue than the drugs. But we've all seen the people on the street who are yelling and screaming, and at times they lash out and attack people. Definitely, we need beds for that. I don't know if they necessarily belong in Santa Monica. We have to work with the county to have them readily available. But I would definitely do a study session to figure out where those could go and provide resources for that.
Okay. And Jesse?
I think we've all come around to the consensus that there's been a long-term disinvestment in medical and mental institutions in our state and country, and it's definitely one of the factors, and it's definitely the most visible factor or portion of the homeless population that people contend with. And I think we're all coming around to the belief that we need to come up with more humane solutions for those experiencing mental health crises, and that we need to revisit our laws around when the state can take responsibility for someone who is unable to care for themselves. I think the county, which handles our sizable mental health budget, is the place to look when it comes to getting our fair share, as Carolyn has mentioned. I think every city needs to play its part, and having those beds readily available in Santa Monica means that we will have a place to bring people and to get them off our street faster. So I don't think it would be a net negative for Santa Monica to invest in that. I know there's been discussions with St. John's as it relates to their expansion. And I think it would serve our community to have those readily available for our uses.
Great. I so want to ask follow-up questions, but we don't have time. Okay, now we're going to go to a round where we are going to ask each of you an individual question. And this was a randomly generated order as well. And we're going to start with Troy. Troy, you said you want to build affordable housing across the city and, quote, upzone everywhere. What does that mean? You think there should be no more single family houses in Santa Monica?
It does not mean that at all. I believe there should be single family housing in Santa Monica. And I think the family is the unique structure in which all of our lives start. So I want to have single family housing in Santa Monica. What I want to do is to have responsible densification, because social justice is the ultimate core problem that is causing all the crime and homelessness that we're seeing in our faces, and it's affecting all income levels. So if you are a person, you would care about densification, because then you're allowing people that will never make the income levels that it would take to live in these large houses on large land to live in the neighborhoods that are very near these same people, and giving them access to the same parks and the same schools and the same people that are on that higher level. And when you have that, you have an appreciation of life, and it spreads throughout the entire community, the entire ethnic community. And that way we see everybody do better and rise, because justice will be served.
Great. I should have given the order here. Alban, I'm going to ask you next, then Carolyn, and then Natalia, just so you can be on the ready. Alban, while you were on the Wilmont board, you supported the Miramar expansion plan over the objection of many residents. If elected, are you going to continue to support large-scale hotel and other development?
Yeah, I was expecting this one to come up. While I was on that board, I was the interim vice chair. I was also live on the border of Wilmont and Noma, so I was also kind of the chair of Noma, reviving that organization, which was had gone to the wayside. But that said, I did support the Miramar, and I do support the Miramar. I think what came out of that day was a much stronger Wilmont. There were mistakes made, and by myself as well. I've learned a lot from that experience, and everything happens for a reason, and good did come out of it. Wilmont is a much more vibrant and participatory neighborhood group, which contributes a lot to Santa Monica. Noma is back in business and has been very strong since then. And the Miramar has gone through several iterations and now is at a design that is completely within the zoning code. So would I support future developments? Yes, as long as they're within our zoning code and they go through the proper community process in order to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Everyone might not agree, but if it's good for our long-term future, then I would support that, as I did with the Gary project at Second and Ocean a month or so ago when that came up to council.
Great, thanks for explaining that. Carolyn, many Santa Monica residents have voiced their concerns about crime rates and their personal safety. When you were interviewed by the Santa Monica Democratic Club, you said you support decarceration, which refers to reducing or eliminating our dependence on prison systems to address crime. How do you think decarceration will make our city safer?
Is that a direct quote from my interview? Because I don't believe that it is, but in any event, I believe in a community-based policing model. I've said it publicly. Public safety is one of my top 3 priorities. It's in my ballot statement. I've also said that I'm very cognizant of the deficit that we have in our police department. Alban's mentioned it twice. We are having a real hard time hiring folks back. I want to see us fully staffed. I actually think that we need some non-sworn folks, such as HR folks, to help expedite the hiring process. It can take as long as a year to get our folks on board. So we need to be fully staffed before we can evaluate whether or not we invest in social workers or we invest in armed officers. I do believe, generally speaking, that this country has an epidemic of over-policing, that we've incarcerated Black and brown folks at higher rates than our white counterparts, and we need to look at community-based solutions before going straight to punitive carceral measures.
Great, thanks for your explanation. Natalia, you've been endorsed by Santa Monica Forward, which sent a letter to city council members on September 26th, warning them to, quote, not meddle, unquote, in the approval of the proposed 521 apartment project at the Gelson's site. That project has only 10% affordable housing. It will vastly increase traffic at one of the most dangerous intersections in the city, and it will result in the loss of the only large grocery store serving the Ocean Park and Sunset Park neighborhoods. How do you justify supporting it?
So, great question, and I do appreciate it because it gives me an opportunity to kind of explain why that type of new housing project is actually better than some of the other things that we're seeing. So first off, it isn't completely eliminating the grocery store. There will still be a grocery store. It's going to be a little bit smaller, but it's going to be 40,000 square feet as opposed to, the large size that the Gelson's is now. Additionally, I do understand the feeling that it's going to increase traffic, but it is increasing homes right there. It is increasing homes along two major thoroughfares that also have bus lines. The people who are going to be living there are not going to be displacing anyone. That's another added benefit. It is only 10% affordable housing, deed restricted affordable housing, and I'd love to see how we can increase that, but that's what's required currently by the city's law. That's what the zoning ordinances say, 10%. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Samantha, your focus is on sustainability. What is the city doing right and wrong in this area?
I believe what the city is doing right is it just got a unanimous pass on the all electric building and EV reach codes, which I advocated with the community for. And they also implemented the water conservation right near the Civic Center. So I think that's good. And I think what it could do better on is, I know a lot of us within the community would like more access to spaces to combat food insecurity, get access to land, water, and other resources like food that we often wouldn't have access to. So through AB 551, as stated before, it would provide that. Thank you.
All right. We have Jonathan, then Armin, then Ellis. Jonathan, you announced a new slate of 3 candidates for City Council called Santa Monicans for Renters Only, SMRO, that are the only candidates for City Council who dare to speak truth to power. Can you explain that?
Well, because we don't have any endorsements and we don't have any conflict of interest, we can represent just the residents. We don't have to represent the city employees like everybody else, or the Santa Monica Renters' Rights, which really doesn't represent renters anymore. They haven't since the 90s. They're responsible for gentrification. They opened the door to it. So the reason that I want to level the playing field with a virtual town hall is so people like myself who are low income, and Samantha and Whitney, who has to work 3 jobs and he couldn't make it to that tonight. We need to be represented on the council because we are the only ones that really will speak only for the residents and no special interests at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Armin, our city depends on businesses and tourism for much of its revenue. In your candidate statement, you talk about, quote, revitalizing our downtown, the economic engine necessary to keep our neighborhoods healthy, close quote. What are the key attributes to making that happen?
Well, number one is public safety. I mean, I've taken a walk on 3rd Street during the day, at nighttime, and it's become kind of a zombie land in a way. You know, it's lost its customer base. The stores are 50% vacant. The what stores that are there, they're having trouble filling their employee bases. Some of them can't find employees. Some of the businesses adjacent to 3rd Street the employees are asking for escorts from the parking lot to the buildings, or they won't come to work. So number one is crime and homelessness on 3rd Street. That needs to be taken care of day one, hour one, after being elected. Beyond that, 3rd Street, I think, also needs a facelift. You know, it's time for 3rd Street 2.0, 2.0, 3.0, whatever you want to call it. I think we need to potentially expand it a little bit onto 4th Street. We need to also revitalize. We need to make the alleys active. We need to activate the alleys. You know, I've seen in certain cities. Well, I'll stop there, but thank you.
Okay, thanks. Ellis, and then it's going to go Jesse and Lana. Ellis, are you committed to closing Santa Monica Airport in 2029 and turning it into a large park as intended by residents when they passed a bond to buy the land for a park in 1926 and supported by the passage of Measure LC in 2014? If not, what is your vision for the airport property?
Yeah, absolutely. I am 100% committed to honoring the will of the voters in Measure LC and making sure that our airport is closed down as soon as possible. Man, I received so much hate for taking that position, and I was out gathering signatures for my campaign, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I think that there are steps we need to take in the interim to further make the airport safer for everyone, including immediately ending the sale of lead-based fuel at the airport. I think we need to implement further restrictions to noise, to hours of operation, to to perhaps even shortening the runway length even further. I mean, this is a really critical environmental issue that's facing our city, and we need to do everything possible to make sure that the airport is transformed in a way that's equitable and just for our community. And after it's closed down, it's going to be a long time before we can do anything with the property. The environmental remediation is going to take quite a long time. But closing it down also gives us an opportunity to implement more infrastructure to get water self-sufficiency. So yeah, I'm 100% committed to it.
Okay, great. And Jesse, you serve as chair of Inclusive Santa Monica. Are you aligned with Abundant Housing LA, which takes credit for raising our RHNA housing requirement from 5,000 to 9,000 units? And if so, why?
I serve as chair of Inclusive Santa Monica because I support the mission of making Santa Monica an affordable and inclusive place for people of all income levels to be able to live here and make their life here. I had no part in determining the state's RHNA obligation. I do believe that we as a city have the obligation to meet it if we're able, so that we are able to continue to receive state and federal funding, and so that we're not deemed out of compliance and lose control over our local zoning. But I have no knowledge of or connection to anything about raising or trying to advocate to raise the city's RHNA obligation. I simply believe that we as a community need to plan adequately for the future so that our children also have a place to be able to buy homes here and build a life here, and that we don't become a retirement community.
Great. And Lana, residents have serious concerns about commercial expansion into neighborhoods, yet you voted to support opening the Oceana Hotel to the public for food and drink, overruling their original conditional use permit. Why was that?
The Oceana is a hotel that if you were to drive by, you could hardly recognize it. It's covered with ivy and it blends right into the community quite naturally. It has a very small capacity to serve any sort of food or beverage. And by just allowing a walkable place for community members to go eat, I did not feel like that was going to be causing the impact of maybe a new commercial development in the community. And I think we need to broaden how we're looking at things and not just constrain them in these rules that we have, because it is not the same as building a new commercial business that would be causing more traffic. This is actually providing something for that community to be able to have a place to not have to get in their car and drive to and get coffee or get breakfast. So that is why I voted for that.
All right, great. Thank you. So now we're going to try a lightning round. These are just yes, no, or support or don't support questions. So we just want you to do a thumbs up or a thumbs down, exactly, as demonstrated by Mr. Mann. And but the thing to keep in mind here is we'd like you at the end of this to pick one of the questions or one of the topics to speak about, to expand on your answer, why you support or don't support it. So it's your choice which one you want to do. And so keep an eye on the let's see how many, we have 12 questions. And then you'll pick which one you want to follow up with. And when we do the follow-ups, Carolyn will lead us off, just so you know. Okay, first one, do you support district elections, and would you as a member of City Council vote to support district elections to advance democracy in in Santa Monica? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Sorry, you cut out.
Would you support district elections to advance?
It's not that black and white, unfortunately.
Well, that's why you'll have the chance to expand if you want to on that afterwards.
You just said you do.
Hey, hold up. I get to talk too. It is cut and dry. The
Okay.
people who don't want to support it, it's because they don't want to run against other people on the council.
All right, well, let's
do
leave it
lightning
there. Let's
round.
leave it there. It's just a yes or no for now. And if you don't, if you want to be in the middle, that's okay. That says something too, but we prefer yes or no. All right, the number 2 here, the governor just signed the LA County Regional Housing Act, which forms an agency authorized to raise revenue from all jurisdictions, including charter cities like ours, through transfer and parcel taxes to help fund affordable housing and rental assistance. Given that, do we still need either of the 2 local transfer tax proposals, the Himmelrich 5% tax on property sales over 8 million, or the Philbrock 2.5 incremental tax on amounts above 8 million? Do we need those or not?
Down is no, up is yes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, number 3.
La Casa doesn't say how they're gonna get funding though.
Yeah, well, that's
There
true.
she goes again.
Number 3, Santa Monica Public Library funding was slashed by 40% during the 2020 restructuring, leaving only 47 full-time employees. Fairview branch is still closed. Ocean Park branch is self-service only. And the Montana Avenue, Pico, and Main branches have limited hours in service. Do you support full restoration of library services in the near future? Well, that's just sort of a gimme. Okay, everybody's thumbs up on that. Number 4, should Santa Monica join with other cities that are fighting the state to restore local control over zoning? Should we fight the state or not? Okay, good mix. I know it's a complicated, it's a hard yes or no. Number 5, do you support Santa Monica employees continuing to receive free parking, which encourages more driving, while residents are told to drive less? Should employees get free parking? Yes or no? Yeah, I see. Mostly screw the employees. Okay. Currently, this is number 6. Currently, city recognized neighborhood organizations are not notified of applications for development projects that are eligible for administrative approval, such as the massive Gelson's project on Lincoln. Should the planning department notify neighborhood organizations about these projects when they're proposed, even if the only required public hearing is the Architectural Review Board? Yes, of course. Well, you're at a neighborhood association forum. That's a good response. Number 7, SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, required Santa Monica to plan for 8,874 new housing units by 2029, of which 70% must be for lower income families. In order to satisfy this requirement, the city is now planning for 13,000 new housing units as a buffer. Do you think this allocation is fair or reasonable? Yes or no? Okay, good mix. Number 8, the Big Blue Bus, which is operated by the city, had a ridership of 5.5 million in 2021, or about 22,000 per weekday, serving both Santa Monica and Los Angeles. Before the pandemic, there was movement toward creating a Big Blue Bus commission in order to gather input from riders on an ongoing basis, improve service, and increase ridership. Do you support forming a Big Blue Bus commission? What's the harm? There we go. Unanimous. Number 9, do you support creating a park at the city-owned property at 4th, 5th, and Arizona rather than hotels, housing, and retail? Park.
Wait, sorry, why is it either or? Why can't it be both?
Well, then go to the middle, I guess. Park versus housing, hotels, etc. All right, very good. Number 10, Santa Monica College has placed a $370 million facilities bond measure on the ballot, even though enrollment has fallen and the college still has $230 million remaining from their previous bond. If it passes, residents in Santa Monica and Malibu will be on the hook for $2.6 billion in principal and interest for bonds approved since 2002. Will you vote for Measure SMC? Okay, good. 2 more. A lot of older apartment buildings in the city have insufficient parking for their tenants. A new state law deleted all parking requirements for new multifamily housing, and street parking is also being taken up by EV chargers. Are you concerned about insufficient parking for residents? Yes or no? Great. Lastly, are you currently a member of your local neighborhood association? Yes or no? Okay, great. Thank you for putting up with that. So now we're going to go around, and any one of those questions that you feel like you wish you could say more, this is your opportunity. You get a minute to address any of these. And if you need a reminder of some, I'm happy to read them again. Carolyn, you're going to be first up. Do you have one you'd like to address?
I have all of them that I'd like to address, because as you can tell, I like to say things. No, I mean, I think on the issue of the RHNA numbers and whether or not it's fair, look, we're in this position because cities across the state have not produced enough housing. And whether or not I think it's fair or compliant with the character of the community to produce 9,000 units of housing. My understanding is that HCD or the state is making us plan for this because we've been woefully under the amount of units that we need to sustain our population. So every city in the state has had this unreasonably high requirement. I think the ship has sailed. Obviously, there's not going to be any opportunity to fight the state. So we need to have a compliant housing element that's been adopted by HCD, which we now do. In order to fight against things like the builder's remedy, which we're now seeing being used, we will lose all local control. So unfortunately, do I prefer local control? Yes, but do I think that we need, to be compliant so that we have state resources coming in and that we still maintain that control? Yes. So it's not an easy answer.
Right. Okay. Jonathan, you're going to be next, and then Jesse and Samantha. Jonathan, you want to expand on one of these?
Yeah, low-income housing. I've been calling for that for such a long time. And what we're getting is so-called affordable housing, which is not affordable to people like myself, okay? I have to pay my entire income for rent. And I've used up all my annuities and savings so I could run for city council 15 times. Unless I'm elected, I won't be able to run for city council anymore because I won't be able to pay my rent. So that's my situation. We need to have the kind of housing, not only for low income people, but for police officers. And I have a solution for that. The apartment owners have thousands of vacancies. They should provide super discounts for police officers so they can live in the city where they work. Thank you.
Very good. And Jesse, what would you like to expand on?
I'd like to take on the question about should we fight the state to restore local control over our zoning? I think it's I think this question is misunderstanding the basic facts on the ground, which is the fact that politicians who are saying we should fight the state to maintain local control are intentionally stoking false hope and misleading the public about our ability to preempt state law, for which there is no valid legal argument available to us. And by fighting the state, we're actually doing the opposite. We are risking losing all control over our zoning. There was a building proposed just the other day that the state advised we had no control over whether we had approval on it because we are out of compliance with our housing element. By complying with our RHNA obligation is the only possibility we have to decide where we want this housing to go, who it should serve, what it should look like, and how it can be a benefit to our community. And those that are arguing that we should fight the state are actually those that are responsible for us losing all local control.
Great, thank you. We're going to go to Samantha, then Natalia, then Ellis. Samantha, what do you want to expand on?
I would like to expand on, I guess, loss of parking. I don't even have a car. My main mode of transportation is a bike everywhere. And I actually see this happening with my neighbors. A lot of them do have cars and they're losing a lot of parking space. I live on 17th Street, and I think the city needs to integrate a lot more community voice on this because I don't believe that the bike lanes are being built for cyclists. Like they're not the way a cyclist would usually, like, I guess, design it in the way it is, just the flows and the protections of it. So I think having more community input, as well as community input on these projects, I think it's great that the city is expanding on them. But I think there's better ways to do so. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Natalia?
I also wish that I could respond to all of these questions, but since I am limited to 1 minute, I'm also going to take question number 11 regarding older buildings and parking and the new state law that just passed that Governor Newsom signed into law, AB 2097, which eliminates parking minimums when a new development is within a certain distance of a high quality transit line. So what that really means, similarly to when we change our zoning laws, it's not mandating that everything it doesn't have parking. It just means that there can be the right amount of parking that the market is demanding. When we think about why is housing so incredibly expensive, especially a lot of the new housing that's coming online, quite a bit of it is coming from the parking, quite frankly, because every additional off-street parking space costs between $50,000 and $100,000. That is every single parking space. And when you think about our parking requirements, a 2-bedroom unit has to have 2 parking spaces. The building that I currently live in would not be legal under current zoning because of how little parking it has. It has 1 parking spot per unit. I do believe that part of the reason that some of the older buildings don't have parking is that some of them maybe do have off-street parking, but it's being used for storage. I know that's the case with some of my neighbors, but we should right size the parking based on what we actually need in new things. Thank you.
Great, thanks. We're going to go to Ellis, then Lana, then Armin. Ellis?
Yeah, I do want to speak to the issue about our arena allocation. I think that the way that the question was phrased was, do we support these state mandates? And it's a very complicated question here in Santa Monica because historically we have really been a leader in producing affordable housing, and I think that by and large these laws really are should be targeted at other cities, not to name any names, that really aren't pulling their weight when it comes to producing the housing that they need. So. To jump off some points that people have said before, courts have held that, not only has the ship sailed with respect to these legal challenges of the numbers, but in fact, you can't challenge the numbers in court at all. If change is to come, it's going to have to come at the legislative level in Sacramento, and there's very little we can do about it here locally. But I think it bears emphasis that the vast majority of the units that we need to produce here in Santa Monica are deed restricted affordable units, and absent some new influx of funding, I just don't think that we're going to be able to meet that target unless money drops from heaven.
We can only hope. Lana, Armin, Troy. Lana?
I think like everybody else, we'd like to touch on lots of things, but the one thing that I did not feel good about putting my thumb down is not being part of Friends of Sunset Park. So Zena, you need to charge me, renew my membership. I do feel like I am an active participant in City Council, which feels like the overarching neighborhood association, but I do value neighborhood associations as a working mom who works multiple jobs and is on many boards. Sometimes we don't always find the time, but neighborhood associations like yourselves are super valuable. And so that is the one answer I wanted to explain. It's not because I don't want to be a part of it. Please, Zena, email me after this and I will make sure that I pay my dues. Thank you.
Thanks for that. That was great. Armin, what would you like to add to?
Definitely the arena allocation. The ship has not sailed. I mean, that's an easy thing to say, but in a democracy, the ship doesn't sail. And when you say the ship has sailed in a democracy, it means you've either given up or you're on the other side. And those are the two things that I think of when I hear the ship has sailed. So, if I wasn't running for city council, I would be voting for someone who's willing to fight for Santa Monica and not say the ship has sailed on such an important issue to the residents of Santa Monica. I think we owe it to our quality of life to join the other cities in the fight, in the legal fight, for challenging the RENA numbers. I think we should start negotiations directly with the state as well. Infrastructure is a major element that has been not looked at. It's been ignored when it comes to growth. Also, the new governor bill that was passed, the Senate Bill 679, with the transfer taxes, specifically talks about building the homes for the RENA purposes. So if we have that, I mean, we're looking at a different time now. We need to go back to the state and renegotiate. So
Great. And then we have Troy and finally Albin. Troy, what would you like to expand on?
I'd like to expand on the statement about the transfer tax and the state having transfer tax and the cities having transfer tax. I believe we should still, as a city, have a transfer tax, and I'm for the Himmelrich tax. I mean, it's for buildings that are in houses over 8 million. So these are very expensive buildings that will still earn a high amount on the sale and will provide money for important things. $50 million for the Himmelrich tax, which is for affordable housing, schools, and fighting homelessness, which are all important things in my mind. And to me, a city like Santa Monica, happy place for happy people, it's in the whole seal. It's to have a place that has diversity for all people to be happy, not just one kind, but all kinds. And so it means economic income diversity. It means diversity of racial backgrounds, and it means diversity of ideas. And the selling point for diversity is that when you have a problem, you need all the perspectives at the table that could possibly overcome it so that you could find the right one to fix that problem. And that's what diversity brings.
Great. Well, good news on two fronts. One, we've come to our closing statements, and two is that we are on time. Albin, did you have something?
Well, do I get to respond to a question?
Oh my God. I knew I would screw up at some point.
Maybe I'm best to just leave this one alone. Who knows?
Terribly sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so the question I'd like to respond to is the first one about districting. I'm not against districting in theory, but I do feel that if we were to have that in Santa Monica, it must be something that we deliberate as a community, probably numerous community meetings, and ultimately we vote on as a population as a referendum. The way we deliberate and debate the use of our land, every square foot of our land, I don't feel like our democracy should be treated any differently. That said, in Santa Monica, a small city of 8.4 square miles, I don't feel it's necessary. I mean, if elected, I care about every square inch of this place. I started my civic engagement in the Pico neighborhood, and I live on Montana Avenue. So opposite end of town, different vibe in the neighborhood, but that didn't stop me from being a participant and an active board member and chair of a board across town. And I feel like the vetting process for council members that we go through with forms like this and the other endorsements can easily weed out somebody who does not care about this entire city versus just the neighborhood they live in. So that said, in this case, I don't feel like Santa Monica is the right community for that. However, if it is, we vote on it.
Well said. Thank you. And I'm sorry that I started to skip you. But we are still on time, which is great. We're going to do our closing statements. This is your opportunity to address any issue that you didn't get to, or refute what anyone said, or just make a final pitch for your candidacy. I think because we have the time, we'll make it a little bit more than a minute. Can we do a minute and a half, Jeff? Okay, we have that technology. And the order is going to be Natalia, Armin, Jesse, Samantha, and then I'll give you the rest. So Natalia, what would you like to wrap up with?
I would love to just briefly give a closing statement. So some of the issues that Santa Monica is facing really seem insurmountable, but they're not. We can solve them if we work together. And we know it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to require hard work, but we can do it, which is why we need to elect leaders like myself who will make the right choices to set up our community for success. If I am elected, I will be an independent voice, and I will still work collaboratively with my fellow council members to build consensus around what policies will have the best outcomes for Santa Monica. I know how to do the research. I understand the complex issues. I have the experience in the community. I have the lived experience that really helps me frame how to make decisions as well. And I have the professional experience. Like I said, I was formerly on the audit subcommittee. I have served on a number of nonprofit boards, including serving for 4 years as president of the League of Women Voters of Santa Monica. I'm still serving on the advisory board of Climate Action Santa Monica and on the board of the Human Relations Council of the Santa Monica Bay Area. I have formerly also served on the board of the Church in Ocean Park, so I have a wide breadth of experience. I do invite folks to please check out my website, nataliaforcitycouncil.com, and I hope you'll vote for me on or before November 8th. And thank you so much for putting on this forum to let our voices be heard.
Thank you, and thanks for being here tonight. We will go to Armin.
Hi, I'm Armin Melkonians. I want to say thank you to the 151 participants that have joined us this evening. I think many of the neighborhood members know who I am. They know what I've done in the past. But I also want to say one thing that I'm very, very, very proud of in this election, and that is to get the endorsement of many of the leaders of our neighborhood group as individuals, not as the organizations, but as individuals, because I've worked hard with all of you, making sure that we have a good quality of life from the outside. I'm trying to now lead as a council member from the inside and make the tough decisions necessary to put residents first. I'm a civil engineer. I fix problems for a living. We have some problems in Santa Monica, and I like to have the opportunity to fix them, to get back to the basics of what it takes to run a government, working for our city, for the residents, and making it a better place to live. Thank you so much. I also want to apologize for going off screen a lot. I have a 20-year-old dog who's I gotta take care of as she makes her noises. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for being here tonight. We are going to go to Jesse and then Samantha. Jesse?
Hi, thank you everyone, to all 151 of you who've tuned in because you care about our city. And when I've listened to the answers tonight, I've heard from 10 people who are running with the best intention to serve their community. And I believe we do agree on much more than some would like to make it seem. I worked prior to this as a journalist in Washington, DC. I wrote about issues of national politics and beltway issues. And the reason why city government ultimately appealed to me is, as opposed to the federal level, is because ultimately it's about fixing problems. It's not about irreconcilable positions like gun control and abortion, where one half of the country will yell at the other for all of time. It's about filling potholes, planning for economic growth, creating environmental sustainability, and getting people off our streets. These are all things that we can agree on as a community. These are values that we share. And it really comes down to who you think would be the best at executing that. I am a problem solver by nature. I'm a technocrat. I believe in the best solution that will actually solve the problem. I've worked studying policy at different city and state levels and advising on it for different city council members in Los Angeles government. I enjoy doing that work, and I would really love to bring that expertise and that dedication to serve my hometown of Santa Monica. I'm endorsed by Sheila Kuehl and the Santa Monica Democrats, and I look forward to earning your support as well.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for being here tonight. Samantha, and then it'll be Albin and Carolyn. Samantha?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here again tonight. Y a los que hablan español, gracias por andar aquí ahora.
Oh, you got muted accidentally there.
All right. So I know together we can improve our city and reimagine what Santa Monica has the capability of becoming. Let's make it more affordable, diverse, inclusive, sustainable, and livable for generations to come. I know I am the most viable candidate for this race because I am the youngest, most passionate, and vibrant voices for the community. As the youngest, I represent the desire to create change and bring new and different perspectives as well as policies to City Council. My passion gives me the drive and motivation to adjust to conditions within our lives, families, and communities. And the vibrancy I generate will ensure the community voice is listened to and spoken for in every policy and program that is brought to the table. I hope I can gain your support for City Council. Don't forget to vote SM for SM. Thank you so much and have a lovely night.
Thanks, Samantha. Thanks for being here. Alban, it's yours.
All right, thanks everyone for coming. We had some great attendance tonight. In closing, I would just like to say, this is my forever home. I decided that about a day or two after I moved here 18 years ago. And for the 15 years I've been solidly involved, it's because I love it here. I want to be part of the magic. I did not join any board or commission because I had a problem with anything or I was upset about anything. I did it so I could just keep Santa Monica an awesome place for our residents and businesses and visitors. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm the type of commissioner, board member who is happy to jump in, roll the sleeves up and do the job that needs to be done for the betterment of the community. And I have a long history of that. If anyone wants to know more, hit me up. I'm not in this race for as a political stepping stone or for my ego or for the need to be right. I'm in it to keep Santa Monica awesome, work with the issues we have about public safety, homelessness, economic recovery, and in my case, sustainability. And I know that we can do it. Natalia mentioned earlier, we can do it. We can do it if we work together. I believe in full civil discourse and mutual respect for everybody. I have a solid working relationship with everybody on the council today, as well as city staff and other community leaders. In closing, I'd say, if you want to get to know more about me, go to voteforalban.com, or actually tomorrow, every Friday from 9 to 11 a.m. I am over at Margot's on 16th and Montana, hosting a coffee talks with me. So I'll be there tomorrow at 9 a.m. Happy to delve into any more of these topics with anybody who shows up or talk about other stuff. I'd love to hear what your concerns are, what you love about Santa Monica and what you wish would be different. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks, Alban. I think keep Santa Monica awesome should go on the crest. I think that's a good one. Thanks for being here. And we are going to go to Carolyn next, and then it will be Troy and Lana.
Thanks so much, Bruce. And I also want to thank my fellow candidates because I think it takes a lot to do this. And I appreciate that we're all here, we're all staying civil, and we all care about the city. And I think that while maybe we all have different solutions on how we want to reach success, we all are doing this because we are trying to serve our public. And that's what I've done throughout my entire career. As I've alluded to, I'm an executive and attorney in local government. I've worked for the County of Los Angeles for the last decade, navigating multiple complex bureaucracies. I'm really proud of the fact that I've authored our county's wage enforcement program that we contract with the city of Santa Monica for. I testified at the state to establish our county's foreclosure prevention program to keep folks in their homes, and have been on the front lines of COVID, delivering over $100 million directly in financial assistance to our businesses and our workers. I'm the only candidate who's endorsed by the Santa Monica Chamber and LA County BizFed, which represents the voices of over 4 million workers in our county, as well as over 450,000 businesses. I care deeply about economic recovery. We will not be able to hire folks back. We will not be able to see the same level of services that we're used to, including safe and clean, including solving our homeless crisis, if we are not able to increase our sales tax revenue and refill our coffers. So I am the candidate that's going to lead us in that direction. I'm ready on day one. I know our government system. I'm going to use it to the advantage of our residents. And I think that I won't spend every meeting talking about I'm new and needing to get up to speed. I'm ready to work on day one to leverage our budget, leverage our relationships, and leverage our position regionally. And I would appreciate your vote. TerosisForSantaMonica.com. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Carolyn. Thanks for being here. It's Troy, then Lana, then Jonathan, then Ellis. Troy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your presence. I am coming straight from the heart and straight out of the community. And I just want to do what's best for the community. I changed around my life recently, and I found for me, it was a system of justice and doing the work that it takes to reach my goal. And that's just the mindset that I'm going to bring to the community around me. I want to serve as a person that people can look up to and say, you know what? He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but he's trying his best. And so will I. My two top issues in life are mental health and social justice. And I feel that I can achieve both through this role. And I feel that I'm the right person for the role. My background in logistics, you can trust logic. Logic is what it takes to get the job done. It takes looking at things with an objective lens and saying, you know what, I'm going to put my biases aside. I'm going to put my ego aside. I'm going to take myself out the picture because it's not about me. It's about a higher purpose. And that's what I want to do is I want to serve that higher purpose. I want to serve the community. You know, I know that some people took a risk on me. Ted Winter took a risk on me to appoint me to a commission for the Clean Beaches Committee, which I served on from 2018 to 2020. And I really appreciate that. And I got the endorsement of David Pizarro, who's a commissioner now on the Human Services Committee. And I appreciate that. And I won't let them down. And if you vote for me on November 8th, I won't let you down either. My name's Troy Harris, and you can see more about me on troyharris.com.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks for being here tonight. Lana, what do you got?
Well, sometimes it works to my disadvantage that I don't write things down and read things, but it keeps it fresh and from the heart because what I'm about to say is just what I've got for you. I was born and raised in Santa Monica. I decided to jump on city council for a lot of reasons, but mainly because I love this city and I'm raising two girls. I've raised two that are adults now that have now moved out of the city, and I want a safer, cleaner, affordable city for my daughters. I think I bring to the council something that a lot of people in this community have been looking for, which is lived perception. I was raised in a rent control building. I live in one now. I bring a voice that comes from my perception as being someone whose family could never afford to buy a home here and who currently resides in a rent control building, who still feels and cannot afford to buy a home here. I want to create opportunities for our community. I want to see my father, who's 82, to be able to age in this community and still be able to see the sunset go down on Lincoln Boulevard and not have it disappear behind buildings at midday. So while I don't want to gate our community, I do want to preserve the best parts of it that I remember growing up for my kids. I'm a small business owner. I walk to Bob's Market. I drive to all ends of the community delivering instruments to students and families. And I have a real love and understanding of all corners and all zip codes in this community. I really want to give a voice to the residents, and I want to be somebody who provides an opportunity that reaches across the aisle. I've been running independently. I've already been on council, which was pretty fractured, and was able to work with my team, and I look forward to doing that in the coming year. So go to voteforlana.com to find out more.
Thank you, Lana. Appreciate it. Jonathan, what have you got?
I've got a lot. I've lived here since the 70s, and I've seen how this city has deteriorated terribly. And I'm really angry about it. And I want to overthrow the government. I don't have a website, but you can contact me through this city candidate statesman. It's got my phone number and my email address. My phone number is 310-218. Just remember the 218. And Marx, M-A-R-X 6279. Now, I'm a Marxist, and what that means is I believe in teaching a man to fish, not giving a man a fish, which is what this city has been doing. And one of the reasons why we have so much crime, because we're a magnet for crime. And I want to change that, and I know how to do it because I have a background in law enforcement, and I'll work with other law enforcement agencies. And I'm not afraid to get help from the sheriff, as long as it's done in the right way. Now, district elections, only one person in the chat even mentioned it. And I've been talking about it for a long time. And I'm really upset that the people we elected in the last election no longer are talking about district elections because they don't want to run against people who live in their neighborhoods. And most of you are north of Wilshire. So finally, these vacancies that we have throughout the city, they need to go to our police officers, at least 100 of them, at a discount so our officers can live in the city they work. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. And congrats on your 15th running. You probably started running before Samantha was born, right?
Yes, this is my only sign. And I'm asking people to help me send it viral. So contact me
Okay,
You can make a copy and put it on social media.
thank you. And Ellis, take us home.
Yeah, we've got some real challenges ahead over the next 2 years and beyond. Between affordability, homelessness, the climate crisis, we really need people who are knowledgeable in good governance and the laws that we need to implement to effectuate change. You know, I'm a renter here in the Pico neighborhood, and some people on my street are paying as much as 60 to 70% of their income towards rent. And that's not unique to my street. All across Santa Monica, we're seeing an affordability crisis, people getting pushed out. We need folks who are going to be strong for rent protections. We need folks who are going to be standing up for those who are getting evicted and pushed out of our city. And I've been doing that. I've been fighting on the front lines to protect our renters and to protect people who are getting pushed out of Santa Monica, especially here in the Pico neighborhood. I'm an environmental attorney, and I've been fighting for common sense policies to address climate change, to make sure that we don't have heat deaths in the summer. A few weeks ago, we saw a heat wave that will look relatively tame in the future if we don't take climate change seriously. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, League of Los Angeles League of Conservation Voters, and many other leading environmentalists. I'll make sure that we're there to address climate change. But perhaps most importantly is really the human rights crisis with respect to homelessness. It's truly just unconscionable that we're one of the most affluent cities in the world, and we have as many as 30 people dying each year on our streets. We need to do better. I have a clear and evidence-based, medical-based plan for getting resources to people who are on our streets to address our homelessness crisis. So please, I hope you'll have my support. Go to electellis.org to learn more. If you go there, you can find my email, and I'd be happy to grab coffee with any of you and talk some more.
Thanks, Ellis. Thanks for being here. And thank you again to all of you for being here tonight. I think you make the decision very difficult. You're all very compelling candidates. And I think everybody who has tuned in has gotten a really good sense of where you stand. And it's going to be a tough call. I wish more of you could be on council than we have spaces for. But really appreciate your being here tonight. And thank you to everyone who stuck with us and watched. We had as many as 165 people at one point, and most of them have stayed through the whole event, which I think is a testament to how well you guys did answering the questions and keeping it interesting. So thanks again, everyone. It's exactly 9 o'clock, and I will say goodnight.